All right. Well, Chase, I do appreciate you hopping on here, man. I really value your time, and we're gonna keep this, right to brass tacks on everything here, because everyone, including me, has the attention span of that goldfish. So, honestly, without further ado, I want you to just kind of tell us a little bit about you, yourself, and what you got going on right now, and we'll kind of take it from there.
So, thank you, Brian, for having me on here. I enjoy your tidbits about managing the firearm industry, the tactical industry on your tactical collective. It's helped me with a lot of things. I'm Chace Seegmiller, founder of Shot Dixie Academy, and I partner with Twisted Horns Guns and Ammo. Primarily, I'm an instructor, so that's what I do most of, but we have a lot of different facets. Shot Dixie Academy was kind of like, one of those things. I was talking to you earlier, like about being a private chef, and when COVID happened, everything that was food went down the drain. Like restaurants shut down, everything. We ended up doing some other things for outdoor stuff, which they couldn't control so much. But for the most part, I didn't know what I was going to do, and my only other real hobby or passion was, shooting. I looked into some things. I ended up I forget the company, but I ended up taking all of my NRA like accreditations and classifications all at once. So like basically all the NRA qualifications you can get, I did within like 2 weeks. So it was just like 12 hours a day, every day for 2 weeks. So it was pretty aggressive, but I had a, really good instructor and he taught me a lot. I didn't learn too much about the business end of it. I learned some good instructional techniques, and the NRA has some good tools for instructors as far as, their websites and stuff to be able to manage all that. But in the beginning, like I was utilizing like all of their courses, and you have to do things very specifically through the NRA. Like they have very specific things that have to go down before people can have certifications. All the classes have to be like 4 hours long. It's kind of like your CCW, situation where a lot of classroom time, a little bit of shooting. And eventually I ended up realizing that I didn't like the way it was all set up, because it took so much time from people, and they only got, knowledgeable. Like it's like when you read some information, but you're never actually ever allowed to apply it. And so I eventually ended up doing things where I just pitch a whole bunch of private lessons, and I still do events like defensive pistol events and things like that with like 20 people. But you can't concentrate on any one shooter. You're walking the line, you're trying to pay attention to what everybody's doing, but you can't focus on that many people at once and really give them the attention they need to move forward, really develop their fundamentals, and things like that. So most of my lessons are private, and I just do that out at a local range, Red Cliffs Rifle and Pistol Range, where I'm one of the managers, deal with just the special events aspect of it. So anyone who wants to use the range for a private event has to contact me, and then we go through all the, accreditations and insurance, and then they can come on the range and do their own thing. And we have a pretty extensive range, which is nice. We have, I think, we got 3 more, so 18 bays. And then we have a 23 lane main range that 13 of those lanes is 100 yards and 13 is 200 yards. And so we've been developing a few different things, and we just barely built another range out to 400 yards, which is the furthest that we have out there. We wanted more, but there's shooting directions that get into the way. And then after, that was weird. After, that was my powder measure. After went through all of that and developed my instruction business, I ended up teaming up with one of the guys that also RSOs and volunteers out there at the range to create Twisted Horn Guns and Ammo. And like I was talking to you about, I dealt with so much stuff, so many issues with Shot Dixie when it came to selling anything that even partially dealt with firearms. Like I was talking about the laser cartridges. Like it's basically just a push button laser, but because it goes in a firearm, merchant accounts would drop me, and just all kinds of different things. And even if I tried to, plead my case, it still would be like, no, we just don't deal with that. And it's just because of the image that it puts with everybody and what the government was, dealing with at that point in time. And then we came into 2024 and things started lightening up a little bit. It was really hard up until then, but we got into 2024. Last August, we opened Twisted Horn Guns and Ammo because things, lightened up quite a bit, and it seemed like we could kind of, be able to market a little bit more. There's still lots of regulations, but, you learn how to manage them, through. The hard part is if you want to do something, on several platforms, all the rules are different, so you have to fit in with like the whole entire thing. in order to put on YouTube. But if you just want to fit into, Facebook and Instagram, they've kind of held back the reins a little bit, so you can kind of do most things. You just can't promote the sale of firearms and things like that. So, and that's fine. I don't need to promote the sale of anything. I'm more am interested in getting people comfortable with shooting so that they can, provide themselves with, defense and provide their community with defense. And it's really about, strengthening the community for me. And so getting people out to the range in any facet, they don't have to come train with me. I run American Rimfire Association matches twice a month. And that's a great opportunity for most people to come out and shoot. We have youth, men, women, all across the board. And it's a good time. Nothing's too abrupt. Everybody, always follows the rules and stuff. And it's an easier group to manage for sure. Just simple calls and the range, stays safe. So, but with Twisted Horn, we started out just remanufacturing ammo because we shot a lot. So we wanted to make ammo for cheaper. So we have a whole setup, lots of gun precision machines, and we don't run anything automated because it just takes too many sensors and there's too many aspects for being able to fail our customers and stuff like that. So everything's done by hand. I mean, hand inspected, case gauged, checked, everything like that to make sure it's as quality of remanufactured ammo as we can make, and we also don't produce as much as some of the other guys. So it's hit or miss. Yeah, and then the precision load development is what we really shine at. There's a lot of hunters out here. I'm in southern Utah, so we have lots of land to just trail out on and find whatever we want. I grew up here. I'm 5th generation out here in southern Utah, and so I walked around with a rifle when I was a kid. We got into doing the load development for hunters primarily because there's a certain segment a year where they just all come out and sight in their rifles, and it's a great opportunity to talk to them about making the best load for their rifle. So we take all the specs of the rifle, go to the books at first, and find a load that's good for those specs. Obviously, that doesn't always work. That's not always going to be the most precise load. So you got to go out and shoot it, see what your groupings are like, and then just develop it little bits at a time. Like you can change the overall length, powder charge, lots of different things to get that pressure right where you need it to have that round stabilized perfectly for the target that you're trying to hit. And obviously every caliber has its limitations and things like that. So it's a lot of work, but I have a lot of fun doing it. And I have a good partner that he's been doing it for far longer than I have been doing it. So he's very knowledgeable, and anything that I can't really pin through, he's got a pretty good knowledge base to be able to work through.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, it's good to be able to have that passion and be able to have, but at the same time, have someone who's maybe doing it a little bit longer than you and be able to lean on them to learn. So that's great, man. I mean, all the stuff you just talked about, everything that you've gone through in the last several years, what's one obstacle or one hurdle that you've already overcame? I know right now all business owners were constantly bumping up against issues, but I like to kind of go back, turn around, and just say, like, hey, this was an issue. Here's how we overcame it.
Yeah, I would say even being a shooter out here in southern Utah, like I said, there's a lot of land. So a lot of shooters that are locals just end up out in BLM land, public lands shooting. And that's great. So what was the hardest for me when I first opened up Top Shot Dixie was really getting in with the ranges around here, developing a relationship that, you can build on to be able to utilize their facilities. We don't have a lot of ranges. We have an indoor range. We have like a cowboy range. We have a private range that we're sistered with, which is Southern Utah Practical Shooters. And they're private because they run all the USPSA nationals and IPSC nationals and stuff like that. So, the public's not allowed to go there. But the range that I'm on and that I do all my instructing at, it's the public range. We have 800 members. So, it's pretty decent. And it's probably the premier range in Utah that's not long range. There's some nicer long range ranges. But, getting in there and just talking and developing the relationships with the people that already work there, it took easily a year to just get to the point where they accepted me enough to where I felt like I had a good relationship and could dive in and give them my credentials and be like, can I come out here and instruct? They're very family oriented, so they have people grandfathered in that already instruct out there, and I didn't want to step on toes and things like that. But after a year, we developed that relationship, and then eventually I ended up becoming the events coordinator out there. So Now I'm a manager at that range, and it really opened up the doors because now that I'm events coordinator, I literally schedule my events anytime I want. I mean, obviously, unless there's a conflict. But like if I want to schedule something,
Yeah.
I just go look at my calendar and then I pencil it in. So it's worked out really
Makes
well.
sense.
But it took that, that really pushing through, feeling like it wasn't going to happen. You know what I mean? Like the people out there are
Yeah.
all older folks, they're all retired because they volunteer, and it takes that kind of time. It's a lot of time to take out of your day to even do two RSO shifts a month, things like that. And
Yeah.
so, dealing with all the older guys and their different mindsets, and eventually, just having a good repertoire with them, and I really enjoy it now. It's been a lot of work. We've done a lot out there at that range since just the 3 years that I've been there,
Yeah.
and that's one thing. Just developing those relationships if you haven't already been in the industry, for a lot of
Yeah.
years. Like that's something you got to do in your community. And I also didn't live here for like 10 years. I lived all over the country, traveling all around for work. And so I lived in a lot of the most dangerous cities in America. And it was because of what I was doing. I was doing alarm systems, and it's better business in places that are dangerous. More logical reason to get an alarm system. And so, with that aspect, and then when we're talking about the merchant accounts and just the aspects of like what social marketing allows for you, and just the only ways, if you don't have a lot of money to market, is really social. I mean, those are the ways to reach people, but also don't
Yeah.
cost you a whole bunch of money. And so if you had a small marketing budget, then you develop those types of things. Another way that I have learned, and this is something key for reach, because of only one platform pushing outreach in the tactical industry, you're limited, but now that there's things like collaborations and things like that you can, take products from certain companies and really dive in and create some good content for them, as well as having it attached to your account. It's a good way to, spread that aspect that you're knowledgeable about, firearms and tactical equipment, but also attached to their already large base of viewers, and get your name out there. And so I dealt with all that marketing challenges, and I decided that maybe affiliating with a lot of companies would work good. And it also gives me a lot of aspects to put on our websites. So marketing banners and different things like that. You got to diversify in this industry a lot in order to make money. Like it's little bits here and there. It's not a lot. Even when you're dealing with an FFL and selling firearms, when you get a wholesale dealer account, you're still dealing with so many different charges. What's it called? Excise tax, like just all kinds of weird things that you wouldn't deal with in any other industry unless you were like in the gambling or alcohol industry or something like that. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you don't know
Price
any of that.
tags.
Yeah, excise tax. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like anything that's dangerous to the environment receives an excise tax, like jet travel, alcohol use, tobacco use. That's why it's the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Like they all deal with that same aspect. But like weird little things, if you ever run a business before, that you literally would never run into, because I've ran other businesses, but the firearms businesses are way different. They deal with a whole bunch of different things, a lot of red tape. But after you get into it and level everything out, like, the FFL was hard to start, takes lots of paperwork, lots of
Yeah.
waiting.
For sure.
And then, anytime you start a business, you're outputting a good amount of money before you ever see any money. And so you got to just know that that's going to happen. So don't expect,
Yeah.
just because you hit all the right marks and that you learn from the right person, that your money is going to produce the same effect as somebody else who did the same thing. Like you got to be kind of fluid in that aspect. And also hitting up SHOT Show every year. It's close to me. It's in Las Vegas, which is only an hour and a half away. So it's
Yeah.
easy for me to go.
But also, if you don't have a grand plan for SHOT Shows, if someone else said everybody's going to SHOT Show, get your map, get all of the different.
Get a plan. That place is like madness. It is exhausting. It's nonstop from the second you get there to the second you leave, and you will have so many steps on if you have one of those counters, that you won't even know what just happened. Like 15 miles of walking every day. So
Oh, I believe it.
yeah.
Shoot, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that, going back to what you just said there about two things that you just kind of touched on pair really well together. At the very beginning, you were saying to on the instructional side to go in and put the time in with the ranges with the people before you can actually get the door open. But then on the other side, most business owners don't know how much time they need to put in with that or with their putting time into their business itself. And that obviously also plays into the marketing side of things because everyone comes in thinking it's going to be a quick win. They're going to walk into the range and say, boom, 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 I'm a great shooter, great instructor, sign me up. People are going to start a business right away and be like, it's been 3 weeks, why am I not a millionaire? It's like, okay, it's just like the same thing when people turn on an ad account on their own. They're just like, my ads have been running for 7 days, I spent $500, why am I not, seeing a return? The expectation of running a real business that has roots, that can grow, that's the hardest thing. I mean, I know for me, and I can tell from how you're talking about things, that expectation management is one of the hardest things, especially when you don't have someone to bounce ideas off, or you don't have someone else or a group of people to talk to. If you're just in your basement alone starting a business and you're not talking to anyone, you're going to think all these things. You're going to get frustrated really quickly. And that's why you see so many businesses turn over so fast. So, if you're an instructor, you want to start teaching at, XYZ range, don't walk in there on the first day. Be a good member first, and then slowly start to build those relationships. And when you do start a business, you have to understand, because I talk to business owners all the time, like, hey, what are your plans? What are your goals? What do you want? A lot of people have short timelines. Now, for me, when I say short, I'm talking a year or two. A year or two. Think about if you were to start a social media account today for a business and you want to monetize that in the firearm industry to make it even harder. If you just did that and you're just selling, optics, something really simple that you can promote legally on Facebook, it's going to take you a few years of engaging content, consistent content before you can see, and that's up to 24 months of you questioning, is this going to work? Why am I doing this? And so, it's absolutely perfect that you said those things because it crosses so many barriers. And so business owners that are listening to this need to kind of take a second, press pause and think like, what are my expectations? Are they too nuts? Or have I been doing this too long? Am I in an echo chamber of my own?
That's true. Echo chamber of your own. That can happen.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get out because a lot of us, we are in business. We're stuck. We're just tunnel vision, trying to just get through the day or get through the month or just get to the goal of some sort, and you don't have a chance to step back, see the whole picture, talk to other people. And on that note, talking to other people, like if you were to go back in your DeLorean and go back to when you started this and catch the younger Chace and be like, hey, here's what you should do differently. What would you whisper in the younger Chace's ear?
To be honest with you, it would be more along the lines of really diving in, like before I really started the business side of things, like just becoming more immersed in the industry itself. Like, okay. I jumped in with both feet really hardcore, and that's great because, it definitely, I had a driving force and I went through everything and was able to break down some barriers through that just brute force. I don't recommend that to anybody. Like that's one of those things where, it takes so much effort that you almost burn out, from that like year of just, kind of stagnation or just limited growth. Yeah, it's frustrating, man. Like, but at the same time, I'll just tell myself to be less frustrated. Like just know that, I really like this phrase that anything measurable can be improved. And so you just got to be constantly evaluating. Don't just sit there and keep doing the same thing and expect it to start pan out after so much time. That's not how things work. You got to be constantly testing, evaluating, knowing your brand, creating a mission. And I don't even say like you got to have a mission statement necessarily, but you got to know what your mission as a person and your business is striving towards. Like, for me personally, I don't do a whole bunch of, even though I could teach a whole bunch of tactical aspects when it comes to training pistol, because I don't really see most people even utilizing those skills too far. I want them to develop a great, fundamental aspect and then build on it in whatever way is going to suit what use they're going to have for that tool. Like it's not one of those things where I believe that there's a one size fits all for everyone. It's very much finding out what is best, especially with like physical limitations. I teach a lot of older people. Like,
Yeah.
I had an 84-year-old lady I was instructing, and it's great that she's really out shooting now. I see her at the range, I mean, 3 or 4 times a week. But she couldn't rack the pistol. She had a revolver, lots of different things. Arthritic hands, couldn't grip the pistol too well. So we kind of had to augment different things to where I would normally train someone. I trained her completely different, just so that she could get to the point where she shot comfortably. And that's what I was trying to get at, because once we got it comfortable, she was actually hitting the target well, nice groupings, a lot more confident as well. And so, that's another aspect. I would tell myself to not be really, at first I was really driven by the exact NRA platform, like just sticking with all of the tools and the recommendations that they had. And that's the one size fits all situation. And it doesn't work out, and in fact, you're probably going to send some people home that will never want to shoot again if you act that way. And so being kind of fluid and also just not getting frustrated about the little things, because there's lots of times I literally like just sat there and thought, I get there, because there's tons of stuff I can do. I don't need to be in this industry if I don't have to. I could go off and do 100 different things, start a whole bunch of different businesses. But do I actually have a kind of a moral aspect of those different things? Even in food, if I can't produce the type of food that I really think is healthy for people, I'm not going to produce it for them. And then if I'm not going to produce something that's going to be generally helpful to people when it comes to the industry, I'm not going to do that. It has to be beneficial. I'm not here to just feed the beast. I mean, as much as I know that being a producer is really the only way to get up in the world, you have to be feeding the masses, and with whatever that they actually want. If you want to be monetarily increased, that's what you have to do. And sometimes people make stupid things that nobody needs and sell them. I can't do that. I'm not going to get into that aspect, even if it's what's going to sell. I won't do that to people, because I've been subject to that kind of manipulation, and I don't like it. I don't like ending up with something that seemed cool in the moment but ultimately is useless in my life under that moral kind of blanket. It keeps me kind of humble, because I'm not able to do some of the things that I know I could do to make a lot more money. It just wouldn't be functional for the growth of humanity. And it's kind of weird for me to be like that. Being in the tactical industry, there's a lot of people that are just pretty hardcore, and I'm pretty mellow about it in the aspects of, I just want everybody to be involved. And that's my main goal, is just to make it an area that anybody that wants to come do it can, come do it and do it comfortably. I bring my wife to a lot of the instructions, because I call her my hype man. So for the shooter, and I train a lot of women one-on-one. And so that's one of the reasons I bring her. I don't like to be just alone with another woman in any aspect. Just, you never know, what's going to be said or accused or anything like that. And also, I don't feel like they're going to get as comfortable with just me. And so my wife comes, and she doesn't instruct. I certified her as an RSO, but she just, she has great things. She'll also video the people, so that when I'm instructing, she can send the videos to them so they can see what they're doing versus trying to remember all the details.
Yeah.
But she's just so excitable, and makes it just so much more of a fun environment than myself, where I'm kind of really focusing on every single detail of what they're doing, and training them in an aspect that's a little bit more just kind of dry and direct. It's not really exciting. So having those two different aspects of it really has assisted a lot of the instruction that I've done, and I didn't know that was going to be a thing. I thought that in the beginning that just the instruction and the skills that I had would give people enough kind of excitement to get them in. And for some guys, that's sure, the technical aspects and all the neat stuff about guns totally get them in the door. But the women, it's a lot different. There's a lot of emotional aspects that keep them wanting to shooting. And so
Some people just need the whole experience
and just
itself.
another woman that shoots.
Whether it's men or women, some people just want a different experience, or the whole experience. I mean, obviously, I can go train with you. We can get into the nitty gritty and just really get into hand positioning, manipulations. But having another person there to kind of bring some levity to it in some way, it can be a better package. So that's great, man. I really appreciate all the insight, and having the ethics and morals to not just do all the cool tactical John Wick shit.
And I got
That's
nothing
awesome.
against that stuff.
'Cause
I think it's awesome. I
no,
just
no,
know it's not
all really
applicable.
cool stuff, man. But hey, it's yeah, like you said, it's not applicable, and if you're trying to teach people who don't need it to use it, or it's crazy. So having people understand the confidence side and just feel more comfortable, like that's what I like about talking to instructors like you, because that's what I personally feel the world needs is more education, more comfort. Because so many people think that, oh, guns are bad things, they're murder weapons. Like, no, no, no. If you can understand and respect them and you're educated, it's just a tool. That's it.
It's all about the knowledge base. Once you become knowledgeable, that fear disappears, and then you're just a happy shooter.
Works for me, man. Well, shoot. I mean, this has been a ton of fun, Chase. I really appreciate you hopping in here and dropping some bombs for people. So, if anyone that is in the South Utah area wants to reach out, what's the best way for them to do that for you?
So we have two different websites. There's TopShotDixieAcademy.com, which is the service base, so all the instruction aspects happen through there. And it has all my contact info on that. You can, there's messaging aspects as well as my phone number, email. And then Twisted-Horn.com is our, FFL website. So if you want anything from, precision ammo loads, just remanufactured ammo, we also do some precision builds, mostly 22 MDT chassis, Bergara and shoots, all that stuff, because of the fact that I run the ARA matches. But yeah, just let us know. And then there's all the socials, which are the same kind of thing, at Top Shot Dixie and at Twisted Horn FFL. And, we're just looking to get people more knowledgeable, get people having fun. A lot of firearms stuff is frustrating, so take some of the frustration out of it.
For sure. Awesome, man. Well, we'll make sure to pull that stuff into the show notes and let people do that. But appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you having me on.
You got it.